Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience. We're going to get started in about 60 seconds. We're just getting our live stream running, and then we will kick off this virtual press conference. So thank you for joining us and for your patience as we got everyone aligned. We appreciate y'all. And Maddie, just let me know when you're ready. Jackie should be able to record, but we also are recording ourselves, and we can share you the recording link if you do need it. And it's also going to be streamed on our Facebook page. But if you don't have recording power and we are recording, I can send you the link when the event is over. Okay, I think we're on live stream, correct, Maddie? If you want to double check it for us. Perfect. And then, Maddie, could you also do gallery view just in case so the Facebook page can see everyone correctly? That would be super helpful as well. Want to make sure that we're all spotlighted as we are speaking. If you can do that, that would be super helpful. All right, so as Maddie's getting our tech organized, I'm gonna go ahead and get us started. My name is Anna V. Eskamani, proudly serving District 42 in the Florida State Legislature. And we are here finding ourselves once more responding to a familiar and deeply painful experience with President Trump reinstating not just his original travel ban, but expanding it. And this travel ban is one that is rooted in not in evidence, but in fear. As an Iranian American born and raised in Orlando, this is not a theoretical situation for me. It's incredibly personal. The countries listed in this ban include Afghanistan, Myanmar or Burma, Chad, Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. And of course, there's also partial entry restrictions applied to nationals from Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. Again, for everyone who is a part of this conversation today, and for those watching online, these are not just political decisions, they're incredibly personal. My family has lived through the heartbreak of being separated by cruel and unnecessary immigration restrictions. I have not been able to see my family in Iran for more than a decade, and it's incredibly difficult to already travel to many of these countries, and now to set new restrictions that are not based in safety, but really in fear mongering and xenophobia, furthering making a bad situation worse. I think it's important to also amplify that many others in Florida, especially for our Haitian diaspora members, our African, Caribbean, and of course, other Middle Eastern communities, are all feeling this pain right now. Let's be clear that this travel ban does nothing to make us safer. What it does do is tear families apart, block students and professionals from opportunities, disrupts our economy, and targets people based on where they come from, not who they are. And again, we have been here before. The courts, the public, and history have shown us that these bans are indeed discriminatory in nature and just morally unjust, especially as a country that is built by immigrants and takes pride in having that origin. This travel ban is once more taking place within an administration that is not only pushing anti-immigrant rhetoric, but one that's also pursuing potentially unconstitutional actions, as many of the detainments through ICE and the approaches by ICE are being challenged in court right now. We have individuals who have been wrongly detained and deported with no due process to other countries where there is no clear path to bring them back to their families. We've seen throughout Florida, large employers had to let go of staff who are on TPS because of the legal landscape being unknown and because of promises that were made to these immigrant community members now being broken by the Trump administration. We're here today to say that we will not take this fight without lifting up all of our communities who are directly impacted and empowering everyday people to be a part of these efforts. I'm proud to be joined by my colleagues, Representatives Joseph, Woodson, Aristide, and Lopez, and community leader Samuel Vilchez. Each one of these speakers have a unique connection to this issue, whether they are directly impacted or their districts are directly impacted, and I'm really grateful they've made the time to be part of this conversation. We've also fought tirelessly for the dignity and rights of immigrant communities in Florida, and together we're here to lift up the voices of those directly impacted by this unjust new travel ban. And we're also here to call for comprehensive immigration reform, an immigration system that is rooted in fairness, justice, and humanity. And so to get us started, I will now pass the microphone over to Representative Marie Woodson. And as she prepares herself, I do want to encourage members of the press to drop your questions in the chat. We will grab them as we enter the question segment. And many of our speakers may also provide remarks in different languages, as we do have incredible talent here and folks with community roots that will be able to also answer questions in different languages. And so with that, Representative Woodson, I will pass the microphone over to you.
Thank you, Representative Dr. Eskamani. Good morning, everyone. My name is Marie Woodson, and I'm a proud representative of House District 105 in South Broward County. Today, we stand together not just as representatives of our communities, but as advocates for justice, humanity, and the fundamental principles that bind us as a nation. I stand before you as a Haitian, born and raised in Haiti, who came to the United States at the age of 21. We gather here this morning to denounce these harmful policies that target 19 countries. As you heard my colleagues, Dr. Eskamani just mentioned those countries to you. I don't need to repeat all of them again, many of which are home to vibrant diaspora communities right here in Florida. This travel ban does not simply impose barriers to entry. It erects walls of divisions based on fear and misunderstanding. It undermines the very fabric of our nation, which has thrived on the contribution of immigrants who bring their hopes, dreams, and talents to our shores. As you see, we all here came from different countries, and we are here in solidarity. Map pale tou avek Haitien kap koute nou yo. Map di Haitien kap koute nou yo. Ben sa ke yo mette pou nou an. Se pou nou mette tet nou ansam, paske nou bouke, nou fatige pran sa kap pase nan men administrasyon sa. E map di nou ke nou tout kampe avek nou jodi an, pou nou di nou ke tet ansam fe jou louvri. Nou tre for, nou stre strong. Et n'a continué bataille parce que ça pas bon ça qu'a passé nous. Also, to those who speak Spanish, mi amigas, yo estoy con usted. Tengo que trabajo conjunto, porque conjunto puede hacer todo que quieres. Los Estados Unidos está para todos. Los inmigrantes hacen mucho en Estados Unidos. Esta administración no quiere nadie. Tiene que continuar que trabaja conjunto. As we uplift those voices of those impacted by the discriminatory ban, let us remember that every immigrant has a story. We have a story to tell. Every individual seeking a better life deserves our compassion and our support. We are not going to stand up and take this ban lightly. We're going to fight together. We're going to work together. And we are going to make sure we call on Congress as well to do their part, because we cannot sit idle. Let us carry forward with those words of John Lewis. The great John Lewis said, never ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. And we will continue to do that because our countries, our people deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative Woodson, for those powerful words. And that is Representative Woodson representing District 105 in South Florida. I'm now going to pass the microphone over to one of my colleagues here in Orange County, Representative Johanna Lopez in District 43.
Turn on your volume because I'm putting mine on. You hear me?
Representative Lopez, we're having trouble hearing you. I'm going to give you, for some reason, your microphone is not working. I'm going to give you a minute to get reset.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. I'm so sorry.
Continue.
Yes, so I represent District 43, and I speak today not only as a legislator, but as a proud Afro-Latina, a mother, and someone who understands the struggle of families seeking hope and freedom. President Trump's decision to ban citizens from 19 countries, including Cuba, Venezuela, and Iran, from entering the United States was unjust, discriminatory, and deeply un-American. It targeted communities who have suffered enough. People fleeing dictatorship, violence, and repression simply because of where they come from. Let's be clear. This isn't about national security. It is about division. It is about fear. It sends a cruel message that those seeking safety and opportunity, especially from Latin America and the Middle East, not welcome here. That is not who we are. I represent a diverse district that includes people of all backgrounds and faiths. We know that immigrants and refugees strengthen our country. We know that compassion is not weakness, it's leadership. We must build a nation where dignity, human rights, and freedom are not reserved for a few but extended to all. I always stand against policies rooted in hate, and I will always stand with the families who deserve a real chance in the American dream. Estoy totalmente en contra de esta situación. En estos momentos pienso que esto es una persecución directa, no tan solo en contra de nuestros países latinoamericanos, sino todos esos países que están sufriendo en su país represión y también comunismo y gobiernos dictatoriales. Pienso que es el momento en que tenemos que unirnos y estar totalmente en contra, de hacer una sola voz en contra de estas iniciativas que lo único que están reflejando es racismo, discriminación, persecución, y nosotros estamos viviendo en el 2025 y es como si nos estuviéramos atrasando siglos de historia. Esto no debe ser permitido, esto va más allá de esferas políticas, esto es una discriminación directa en contra de nuestras comunidades más vulnerables. Así que estamos unidos en esta lucha y gracias.
Thank you so much, Representative Lopez, for your powerful words. We're so grateful for your leadership here in Orange County and for being a champion of all people. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I now want to pass the microphone over to one of our newest legislators in the Florida House who's been a champion for working class people and for his district, and that is Representative Wallace Aristide of District 107. So I will pass the microphone over to you. And for some reason, your sound is also not working, Rep, so maybe just double check that audio. And I know you can also go to Rep Woodson's computer if you need to, so maybe that might be an option. Still don't hear you. Okay, we'll give you a minute to get over there.
Yeah, quick. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
real quick.
Thank you so much, Rep. Woodson. Again, I want to thank you so much, Representative Eskamani, for an opportunity to come and speak on this subject. This continues to be alarming and it continues to be concerning. For over 10 years, we've been hearing that immigrants are the things that are destroying America, that are committing crime, that are criminals, that are negatively impacting communities. I'm trying to wonder who they're talking about because the immigrants I deal with every day, and my community has a mixed group of immigrants from all over the world in Miami-Dade County. The second largest group of immigrants are the people where I come from, people from Haiti. That's the second largest group of immigrants in Miami-Dade County. What I know about these people, they work hard, they're dedicated, they're committed to their family, they're engaged in the community in a very positive way. There's a narrative that's being painted that when you hear it, if you didn't know any better, you would think that every time you saw an immigrant, you thought that person was a criminal. This has got to cease and desist. We will not just continue to allow people to put us in a bag that is not true, that's falsifying information about immigrants that are doing everything they can to make their lives better, make their communities better. The immigrants in Miami-Dade that I work with in my district, when you talk about North Miami, you talk about North Miami Beach and the surrounding communities, have done so much to help a community that they live and they care and they love so very much. It's unfortunate that we have leadership in this nation that has decided to make this decision to say all these countries were abandoning people that are suffering, that you heard about the humanity that are going through so many struggles. So today I want to let everybody in my community know that the state of Florida, myself as representative, and all the representatives you're hearing for today, we stand with you. Mwen nou tout konnen. N'a continuer à faire tout effort pour nous aider, pour nous supporter, pour être venir dans le pays. Pays à Kounia, c'est pays pao. Ça, c'est un pays où fait tout effort pour bâtir tête, pour lever tête, pour aider les petits, pour aider les familles. Même pas camper pour continuer à garder ça, pour ne pas dire rien. Nous venons pour nous parler, ou aider pour nous jouer nous voir. Nous avons servi voir ça pour nous faire tout le monde connaît comme haïtien. Nous allons mettre tête ensemble. You need a lot. À nous faire ça à la one by there. Pour nous faire tout le monde connaît, nous ne pouvons pas accepter ça. Nous ne pouvons pas dire, c'est haïtien qui vient par problème ici. Ce n'est pas ça nous faire. Tout l'autre pays, ça y est, il y a un bon monde qui a venu pour aider tête, pour aider des familles. So, à nous mettre tête ensemble, nous aider l'autre. Je dis nous merci, c'est Wallace Aristide, député, District Sunset. Again, I want to thank you for this opportunity. It's Wallace Aristide, District 107. I stand with my colleagues to see a Florida that works for everybody, and it works for immigrants, because immigrants have allowed the state of Florida to continue to develop and grow and be prosperous, wealthy and healthy, and safe, because immigrants believe in safety and they believe in being somewhere where they're secure and everybody around them is secure. Thank you so very much, Representative Eskamani, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Representative Aristide. Such powerful words, and I'm grateful for your service in the legislature. Your community is lucky to have you in this position of support. I'm now going to pass it over to one of our community leaders here in Central Florida, a member of the Venezuelan community, Samuel Vilchez. And as he prepares to enter the virtual stage, I do want to provide some statistics to the press who are here with us and to those watching online about some of these impacted communities and how they have shaped and impacted Florida. So in particular, Florida has the largest Haitian population in the United States, with more than 500,000 individuals and counting. That makes up nearly half the total Haitian population in the United States. In 2023, an estimated 1.6 million residents in Florida were of Cuban origin. And of course, Florida is also home to one of the largest Venezuelan immigrant communities, a population that is approximately 47% of all Venezuelan-born U.S. residents who are living in the state of Florida. This translates to over 300,000 Venezuelans in our state. And not only are these communities being impacted in the context of TPS being ended early compared to what was promised to these communities, but now, of course, we see a travel ban being placed on those who wish to come to the United States. And so with that, I will pass the microphone over to Samuel Vilchez.
Thank you, Representative Eskamani, and thank you to the House Democrats for coming together to speak on this particular issue. My name is Samuel Vilchez Santiago. I'm proud to serve as the chair of the Orange County Democratic Party here in Orlando. And I'm also proud to be an American citizen who came to this country as a political asylee from Venezuela. I was just 13 years old when my family fled the Maduro regime. We came to this country in search for safety, freedom, and opportunity. And like many others who have sought refuge in this soil, we've worked hard, we've given back, and we've built a life here. That journey brought me to where I am today, a U.S. citizen, a community leader, and a proud Floridian. But this week, Donald Trump is once again telling families like mine that we're not welcomed here. And here in Florida, the consequences are immediate, personal, and profound. This state is powered by people who come here to work, to study, to reunite with family, or simply to visit. Tourism is one of Florida's largest economic engines, generating over $100 billion a year and supporting more than 1 million jobs. And yet this ban directly undermines that by making it harder for people to travel here, invest here, and feel welcome here. And it's not just tourism, it's also education. Florida universities attract thousands of international students, including many from countries now targeted by this ban. These students bring knowledge, culture, innovation, and significant revenue to our campuses and local economies. And of course, it's families. This ban will keep my own grandmother from visiting me. Her grandson, a United States citizen. She's aging and sick, and now she might never get the chance to see the life I've built here. And I can't safely go back to Venezuela to visit her. The political situation there still puts my family at risk. And so we remain separated, not by choice, but by cruelty disguised as policy, not only from Maduro, but also now from Trump. This is happening to thousands of families in Florida, families from Venezuela, from Haiti, from Cuba, from Sudan, from Iran, and Libya and beyond, torn apart because of where they're born, not because of who they are. Torn apart by dictatorial, authoritarian regimes and politicians. But we've seen this before and we've defeated it before. This policy is not only morally wrong, it is economically reckless, legally questionable, anti-family, and fundamentally un-American. We need policies that are rooted in facts, not fear, compassion, not cruelty, strategy, not scapegoating. And to every Floridian who feels the impact of this ban, know that you're not alone. We're organizing, we're speaking out, and we're going to fight this with everything we've got. And I'll say it quickly in Spanish. La realidad es que esta política de Trump es una política que va en contra de nuestras familias. Mi propia abuela, que no ha podido venir acá, gracias a esta política no va a poder venir y no va a poder ver la vida que yo como ciudadano americano he podido construir en este país. Y yo no puedo regresar a Venezuela porque la realidad es que la situación política en Venezuela no le permite a nuestras familias regresar sin algún tipo de riesgo. Entonces tenemos ahora miles y miles de familias en el estado de la Florida que han sido separadas no solo por Nicolás Maduro, pero ahora también por Donald Trump. Y es la realidad que tenemos que enfrentar juntos a estas políticas discriminatorias que van en contra de nuestras familias y también van en contra de nuestra economía. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Samuel. That was so powerful. And I can 100% relate as an Iranian American. My grandmother is aging and has health issues. And I suspect that I will not be able to see her before she passes. And it is a very difficult reality for many of us where we are navigating conflict in these homelands that are dictatorial in nature that make it difficult already to survive. And for folks who are fleeing that to achieve the American dream, it is heartbreaking and un-American that they cannot do that. And so I'm grateful for your leadership and thank you for speaking to a truth that many of us navigate and hold quietly and silently every single day as we work hard to deliver our ancestors' wildest dreams. And so I thank you so much for your words. And now to wrap us up, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Representative Dotie Joseph, who represents District 108, and then we will take questions from the press.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. I am Dotie Joseph, and I proudly represent Florida House District 108, which is entirely in Miami-Dade County. Haiti, as you already know, is one of the countries facing the full ban. This comes on the heels of a Supreme Court ruling just recently lifting the lower court's preliminary injunction, effectively ending deportation protections for the CHNV humanitarian parolees who do not qualify or have some other kind of legal status. Mind you, these same Biden program parolees who followed the law, entered the quote unquote right way, were vetted through controlled parole processes by the US immigration. They passed criminal background checks, they paid the required fees. Some have people, or all of them have somebody financially sponsoring them. And in some cases, they're actively working and contributing to their communities. These people have their legal status revoked and are vulnerable to deportation and detention. And, you know, putting this in the broader context of what we're seeing around the United States and in Florida as well, we are seeing these mass deportations, this kind of deport first, ask questions later kind of scenario. And people, it's forcing family separations, disrupting entire communities. And what does that look like, right? What does that mean for the people in the countries that are listed? Well, these bans disrupt the family petitions and reunifications that are already in progress. They block student and work visas for people from these countries admitted to the US. And this is layered on top of the blanket ban on student immigrant visas that we're seeing coming out of the State Department. this prevents Florida-based Haitian Americans and other folks from bringing over loved ones and attending funerals and all kinds of things that, you don't really think about, but there's a very human cost to this. What do we say in my district? Well, the sentiment is that at least within the Haitian community, ever since on the campaign trail, this administration has been targeting Haitians, and it's turned its back on Cubans as well. This is especially disappointing given the Secretary of the State being from this state and having connections to these communities that he says he cares about. And we're not seeing that borne out in the policies that are coming out of this administration. Families are suffering, parents are being separated from their children, spouses are being kept apart, in some cases deported. Many face indefinite delays in immigration processes that they started years ago. Doing things the legal way. US businesses and consumers are going to be the ones paying the price for workers being blocked from working. We know, for example, in Springfield, that Haitian Americans were serving a very important role that both the governor and the local government had, specifically supported because they were filling a gap, not just there, but even in our home state. Immigrants fill an important gap in our workforce at a time where we're facing ridiculous shortages in industries across that are primary across the state, whether you're talking about tourism, construction, hospitality, and not to mention caregiving. This ban shuts the door on their economic contributions and talent, just as a blanket ban on international student visas. This ban allows the government to do an end run around the Constitution by stripping away legal status from entire groups of people without actual individualized due process. And by that, I mean a person-specific determination rather than a blanket bar, which may be based on national origin discrimination. So I'll just highlight that. So as the lawyer amongst us, I'm just going to point out that in announcing this ban, the president cited a recent anti-Semitic attack that took place just days ago, but the person was from Egypt. Guess which country is not on the list? To that extent, to the extent that the president is trying to use, or the administration is trying to use statutory authority based on 8 USC 1182F, it's still subject to the US Constitution. It still has to meet Fifth and 14th Amendment due process requirements. And there must be this individualized country determination, and just overstaying visas, I don't know, is enough of a basis to make that determination. In any event, I just want people to understand and connect the dots that if we allow due process to be skirted and sidestepped for this group of people, guess who's going to be on the chopping block next? This is not about safety. It's not about security. It's about targeting vulnerable communities who especially happen to be Black and Brown. So with that, as Representative Eskamani said earlier, we are not going down without a fight. Legal challenges will likely be forthcoming, and we're here for all of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Joseph. Beautifully said. I see some questions coming in from the press, and I also think questions coming in from members of the public, and we'll do our best to grab as many as we can. The first question, and this is for really anyone who wants to grab it, from the Florida Phoenix. Thanks for hosting this call. What would you say to Florida's Cuban and Venezuelan Republicans in this moment? And I assume this includes elected officials, but also maybe even members of the public that voted for President Trump. And Samuel, I see you've unmuted yourself. Do you want to grab this question first? And anyone else, just be brief if you can, because I want to grab as many questions as possible.
Yeah, I think as a Venezuelan American, it was deeply frustrating to see how our community voted in the last election, especially when it was clear that we were going to be targeted. And some people basically said, he's not talking about us. I think it's clear now, 6 months in, that yes, he was talking about us. And we have to wake up to the reality of what the policies that are being implemented under this administration create for our families and for our communities. And we have now have TPS rescinded for Venezuelans, the CHNV parole program rescinded, against Venezuelans, Cubans, Haitians, and Nicaraguans. Now we have a travel ban targeting Venezuelans and Cubans and other communities. And so it's clear, yes, he was talking about us. He is targeting us. And in his creation of what it means to be American, we are not included. And because of that, we have to wake up and we have to take action. And that means getting our people to safety. If you are in some form of irregular status, make sure you talk to a lawyer, talk to an attorney as soon as you can, and to make sure also the next time there's an election that you stand up for democracy and you stand up for your community and for your family, and understand that your vote is not just for one man or one party. Your vote has to be based on the policies that those politicians are putting forth for you to decide on. You have to look at the policies and how the policies are impacting us. And quite honestly, this is not about whether you're Republican or you're a Democrat, or you're Venezuelan Republican or Venezuelan Democrat. At the end of the day, even if you're a Venezuelan Republican, your family, if you wanted to see them, will not be allowed to come in. So that doesn't matter. So focus on the policy, wake up, and let's get to work.
I would just add that not
If
just
I may
waiting for
add
the
real
next
quick.
election, right now, there are a lot of policies that are still being considered. There's this big budget that is underway that has huge immigration ramifications. Contact all of your federal representatives now and let them know how you feel. Let them know that you don't agree with this detention. Polling after polling is showing that people are not appreciating this maskless terrorizing that's happening in immigrant communities. So now is the time to act before the next election, assuming we have elections, but to really go ahead and make sure that people know, we have a Secretary of State that is of Cuban heritage. Contact him, contact his office. If you're in Florida, we have lots of representatives at the federal level, contact them. You have both of our US senators, contact them. Let them know how you feel now. Do not wait till the next election. Contact them now and adjust accordingly, because it goes beyond party. How we're treating people has to do with how we uphold the Constitution, which every single elected official had took an oath to uphold, but also how we're treating people, how we allow, if we make exceptions for one group, that sets a precedent of how they can treat every single person, including US citizens who we're also seeing being deported.
I would
Thank you,
add to
Joseph.
this.
Rep. Woodson, please.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Eskamani. I would add to this. I would tell them straightforward, they need to own this, because this election was not about whether you are Republicans or Democrat. You have to do what's right for the people, and they saw it coming and they were part of it. So they need to own it now, because everybody's being impacted by this. Whether you have family or not, you still being impacted by it in one way or the other. So they need to own it. They need to go to their own colleagues. They need to go to their own senators, representatives, and everybody, and the US Congress, and do what's right by the people, because they deserve better. We deserve better as immigrants. We deserve better as a people, and we deserve to treat people the way that we want to be treated, because this is going to bite everyone in the butt when we have those bans and when we're destroying families. And that's all to it. They need to own it. They need to do something about it, but we will continue to do what we're doing.
Thank you, Rep. Woodson. And the next questions are somewhat related. So I'm gonna read them out first, and then I'll provide open comment, and then we'll see who else wants to add to it. But Jason writes, what are the plans to protect us immigrants from the executive orders? How do we protect those who just lost documented status in the past month from executive orders? Jason also adds, how do we make sure the municipalities do not sign 287G agreements? And then Glenna writes, Rep. Joseph mentioned potential legal challenges. What might that look like? Are there plaintiffs yet? And then CBS Miami writes, the question I get is what can be done? What are actionable items that you are doing legislatively, and what can people do at home, immigrants and allies as well? And so I'm gonna just kind of wrap these questions up quickly and then open up to others. So the reality is that in a state like Florida, we are constantly playing defense for our immigrant communities and this was before and after Trump, right? When Ron DeSantis was in the governor's office without Trump, he was still pursuing anti-immigrant legislation that we have been fighting every single day. And we've actually had victories in court, often due to the supremacy clause, often due to the fact that the policies are discriminatory. But I think it's a harsh reality for us in Florida that we have been fighting these battles for a long time. Our dreamers just lost their in-state tuition, something that Texas is doing right now. So the unfortunate reality is we've always been playing defense. So to some degree, we're probably more prepared than other states, but it does mean that our safety valves are very, very limited. And that's why it is important to organize at the local level to push your local officials not to sign on to 287G agreements, or if they do sign on to the task force model, that they're only training the minimum required benefit, which is one officer, not 10% of their agency, not 100% of their agency. You only have to train one officer to be a minimum required for the 287G agreement. So if local governments, for whatever reason, feel intimidated, that they feel pressure to sign on for fear of defunding by these different administrations, not only do I encourage them to fight back against that, and the local community should hold them accountable to that standard, but also remember that it's not required to train your entire agency. Now, with that said, the actions that myself and legislative colleagues are taking is, of course, filing proactive legislation, but in this environment, those bills don't get a hearing. Representative Joseph and Woodson and others have championed pro-immigration policies with myself as well to set a new tone and to counter the hateful rhetoric that has demonized our immigrant community members. And so we have the long-term vision, right, as it pertains to electorally shifting the landscape with this issue as an election item. There's also the crisis response work we have to do right now. And that takes shape in a few ways. One is, of course, we're facilitating multiple Know Your Rights workshops. I know at every event that I participate, we have red cards in different languages so folks have these resources, and really trying to empower folks to have legal representation, to seek that out if they don't already have it, by boosting and supporting legal aid pro bono organizations, whether it's Community Justice Project or Orlando Center for Justice, or some of the facilitating organizations like Florida Immigration Coalition and Hope Community Center and others. These are organizations that also need your financial support. So for those who are watching online, please support our advocacy organizations who are on the front lines every day, showing up to immigration meetings with their clients, helping to protect them from the lack of due process. We have had some wins at a hyper local level in delaying what feels sometimes like the inevitable of this hostile anti-immigrant environment. But I will say, we only have each other to protect one another. So it's very important to put pressure on your elected officials to show up beyond a press conference, right? To do the work on the ground, which I can speak to everyone here as being leaders in that regard. But we definitely need more elected officials to hold their values and to push back against this, not just rhetoric, but the policies that are endangering our communities. But let me step back and see if anyone else wants to add to those questions.
I
I'll
would add
add.
something real
Yeah,
quick, but Dr. Eskamani, as I mentioned earlier, we must hold Congress accountable. We must call on Congress because immigration is a federal issue, as we know. It's not a state issue, it's not a local issue. Yes, we are going to continue to organize, we are going to continue to raise our voices, but we really need to strategize with Congress, with our with our U.S. representatives and our senators to call them to the table. This is an issue that they must address. We are doing the best that we can at the state level, and the local elected officials as well are doing their best, but we need to take it where it needs to go. It lies within the federal government, and we must do that. As a matter of fact, we plan on meeting with all of them, whether Democrats or Republicans. They all need to come to the table and say, what is the plan? What do you plan on doing in order to address those issues that are hurting our community? Thank you.
And if I can add to the piece around Congress, there's currently a budget proposal that cuts funding for Medicaid and SNAP benefits and FEMA to provide $185 billion for immigration enforcement. We're talking about $45 billion to increase immigration detention capacity so they can hold up to 100,000 people at any given time. And we have here in Florida, 3 members of Congress, particularly in South Florida, 3 Cuban Americans, Republican members of Congress, that were the deciding votes to pass this bill in the House of Representatives, and they will likely have to vote on it again. And so if you're here and if you're afraid or if you're a US citizen, they need to hear from you. Congresswoman Salazar, Congressman Jimenez, and Congressman Diaz-Balart, they need to hear from you. Senator Rick Scott and Senator Ashley Moody, they need to hear from you, because what they're doing is they're cutting the funding for Medicaid and healthcare so they can then fund their mass deportation dreams. And we have got to say, not on our watch.
So adding on to that, for individuals, and you're in any of these situations and you're trying to figure it out, I cannot stress this enough. Talk to an immigration attorney. Do not just voluntarily deport yourself. That has huge legal ramifications that may not be what you intended. It may bar you beyond that. Again, please, please, please see an immigration attorney. There are lots of legal challenges afoot, some being led by the Haitian Bridge Alliance, who is coming under quite a bit of attack. They are partnered with a number of organizations. Representative Eskamani mentioned a few of them already, like FLIC and several others out of Orlando. There are lots of organizations in Miami working with our immigrant community, everybody from Santla Haitian Neighborhood Network. You have Catholic Legal Services, you have Femme Haitienne in Miami, Family Action Network Movement. I mean, a whole host of organizations. So if you're not sure, let's say you're hearing this and you want to figure out a way to support our immigrant communities, there are lots of things that you can do. You can just reach out to my office. I'm Googleable, or I answer my own DMs on Instagram. And what we can do is we can put you in touch with the appropriate organization or individual to help you do what you're trying to do, whether it's contribute to legal funds, to get people out of jail, of bail, for those who are being detained for that regard. There are bail funds specifically for that, for people who are trying to help folks trying to figure out how they're going to make ends meet because their jobs are lost now. There are a whole host of things that we can do to support in terms of on the community level. In terms of legislation, the domain should be at the federal level, as some of my colleagues pointed out. Unfortunately, we have a Congress that has consistently kicked the can down the road for comprehensive immigration reform. The last time we had real immigration reform in this country was under President Reagan, right? So that was quite some time ago, but that was under a different era where Republicans were not using immigrants as a scapegoat, but rather saw their contribution to society. We need to get back to that kind of mode where we're actually looking for comprehensive immigration reform. And I echo what Samuel said, right? Contact all of these federal elected officials who voted for this big, beautiful budget that I would argue focuses on tax cuts, not to fund necessarily just immigration, because that's part of Project 2025, but to fund tax cuts for billionaires. That's the whole point of these tax cuts. So they're taking money away from and support and services away from regular folks who make under, let's say, $1 million, to give tax cuts to the ultra rich who are not paying their fair share. In fact, if billionaires, just billionaires, paid their fair of taxes from 2024 tax year and before that, we would eliminate poverty in this country. So I need people to connect those dots so that they understand what's going on. To answer the question in terms of legislation that we have filed, I specifically filed HB 1435, which is the Florida Immigration and Prosperity Act, to counteract a lot of the things that we're seeing coming out of the Florida legislature, which again, we have no business getting involved in immigration, but that's a story for another day. But given that we're here, what that bill does is it undoes a lot of the harmful things that we saw coming out of the Florida legislature to try to bring that down. So we're fighting what we can at the state level. These are federal issues. People need to hear from their federal representatives. Last thing is about the 287G agreements. If you are a city, I know the city of Miami is getting ready to consider it soon. These are voluntary. You do not need to, you're not required to participate and voluntarily engage in terrorizing the immigrants in your community. So I'm going to say that again. It is voluntary. There are legal challenges coming out right now already out of South Miami. So wait and see how that plays out before you do anything. There is no need to proactively do anything now. And for people who are showing up legally to their immigration status hearings, right? What we're seeing is that the government is dismissing those cases so that they can make you available for deportation immediately. Do not accept the dismissal. Fight the dismissal right then and there. Seek an appeal so that you are not automatically taken away when you're doing the right thing and showing up for your immigration court hearing. Make sure that you are fighting it. Talk to a lawyer in advance so you are ready to fight it there, because if they offer dismissal back in the day, that used to be a good thing. This is not a good thing right now. It is making you available for immediate deportation and detention. So do not accept the dismissal. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Rep. Joseph. And we are out of time. And so I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us. To members of the press, we will make this recording available. If you need it, just let us know. We'll send you the link as soon as it's available. And it also is recorded on our Facebook page for folks to watch again as well. We will continue this fight. I want to thank all of our phenomenal leaders and partners for being here today. Thank you for everything you do. And we will continue on these efforts. Thank you, everyone.